everybody for coming out tonight, and also thank you to everyone who participated in our first ever symposium today. I want to thank the ICA first for collaborating on the symposium and for providing the space for today, and also, oh, hi, Louie. Just wanted to also thank some of our funders who specifically gave for this convening, Just Films, Ford Foundation, the Wyncote Foundation, and the Knight Foundation, who were really interested in us bringing together all of you filmmakers and critics and writers to, convene with each other and have the conversations that we did today. And this is our, dessert, our lucky treat. Also wanted to thank all of our community partners, and you'll be hearing all of that throughout the rest of the festival over and over again, so I'm going to keep this one brief. But I definitely wanted to thank G and Alex, who work doing programming at ICA, for collaborating on making this event happen tonight, and also thank you all of you with your flexibility as we change locations. I wanted to make sure that you know that the festival starts tomorrow and it ends on Sunday, August 7th, and so if you haven't, you have one more day to buy a pass, and hope that you will attend everything. And then we'll go ahead and get started. After this conversation should end at 6:30, and if you're interested, ICA is open until 8, so please feel free to walk the 2 blocks back and see the wonderful shows that we have on view. I didn't introduce myself. My name's Mayori. Yeah. And I am the founder and artistic director of Black Star, but also the director of public engagement at ICA. So I collaborated with myself to present this conversation. And we also thank Jesse and everyone at iHouse for opening the doors to the space tonight. So I'm going to, without further ado, introduce John Jackson and Haile Grima for our special conversation. And what we'll do is have them speak for about 45 minutes, and then we'll open it up because we know you guys probably have lots of questions as well. So if anybody wants to know where the bathrooms are, I don't think this is true today. I think they're off tomorrow. Does anybody at work at iHouse know? No, I know where they are. They have a water issue, but I think it's just tomorrow. It's not today. So there's bathrooms downstairs when you walk outside. Tomorrow, thank you. When you go outside, back towards, like you're going out the door, they're downstairs. And then there's also some on the second floor. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayori. I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. Before we get started, I will say anyone who's ever asked me about Black Star will tell you that my response has always been that as far as I'm concerned, it is one of the most, if not the most, exciting weekend in Philadelphia all year round. I cannot wait for it. Glad it's here. I know they don't sleep for a while leading up to it, but it's really worth it. And it energizes and inspires a lot of us. And so I'm glad we're here to kick this off. And really, this isn't a dialogue. This is me asking Haile Grima questions, is what this is. And just in the spirit of full disclosure, what you should know, and the place I'm coming from, is a place that really is predicated on the fact that most of the ways in which I think about filmmaking now are a function of one particular class I took with you in, I think it was fall 1992, film directing. And I remember the date because I think it was around the time Sankofa wasn't yet out. And you kept talking about it. And we could not wait to see this film, right? Because Haile talked in these very extravagant terms about the game changer this film would be. And I remember in class, one of the things you were very good about was getting us to understand and to recognize the importance of the social community you build as a filmmaker. So you would bring back old people. So I took film at Howard. And I always tell people that was when film wasn't just offered up as a kind of metaphorical term. Like now we say film, we don't really know what's working in celluloid, really, right? But we were still like changing magazines in black bags and sending them to the lab and hoping that they were exposed properly. And I remember you would bring in cinematographers. You'd bring in folks who you taught before us, who told us about their plight in the industry, told us about their approach to filmmaking, told us even specifically, I'll never forget this, about the challenge of using Kodak film stock to shoot black bodies, something so material and specific like that. And so what I wanted to do was maybe start by asking you, what are the, I know maybe I can offer up some of the other key, really important nuggets that I got from my semester with you that I've never let go of, that you know you want every young, burgeoning filmmaker who's trying to tell stories about black life, what you know they have to emphasize, and what are the top 3 things they should be thinking about as artists working in the medium of the moving image. What are the 3 most important things that you, and again, maybe the things you start with in class, maybe the stuff that you don't get to until the end of the semester, but what are the 3 things, or maybe more than 3, that's an arbitrary number, that you feel like they have to be thinking about if they're going to get it right?
First, I want to thank you and the organizers, and I just pray they stay small and potent, and I pray for that. The more something grows, the more it loses. So I admire them. That's why I'm here. This is one of the best festivals, I think, in my view. That, yeah. And after that, I just want to say another part of it is there are many things I'm going to forcefully speak about, but they are not rules. I don't want young people, young filmmakers to be discouraged by my values of what a filmmaker is, it's all for myself. I want to live that. If it works for other people, I want to share it. But I'm not putting out here a prescription for people because I think that discourages the nerve endings of people, and they don't need a monster like me. They already are faced by this larger white supremacist paradigm that makes it so difficult to be birthed, to be born as a storyteller. And so I don't want to be a pressure, but I have things have accumulated over the years, not only in teaching, but also in practicing in filmmaking. So one of the things I want to say is, in fact, one doesn't have to go to film school. One doesn't have to not go to film school. Film school doesn't make people filmmakers. There's a whole methodology now. UCLA goes around thinking they created us, the so-called black rebel, whatever they call it. And it's very tragic because it's in spite of UCLA we were born. And to me, the historical engine that gave birth of us is something unique that needs to be flashed out without being opportunistic about the way white America cherry picks and creates abortion in the creative process. For me, a group of us, a majority of us couldn't be bought. And that helped a lot for us to be born. But it doesn't mean like the system didn't come to cherry pick. See, a black film movement, like literature, like music, once the white power structure cherry picks, then it destroys the resistance nature of that creative process. And so I want to put that out from the outset. I feel, especially African Americans, in my view, they have the richest aspect of Africa, the heartbeat of human birth, the Kush people, the fire, and then through the crucible of slavery, they've transformed another powerful energy of creative output. And it has a lot to do with primarily not only slavery, but subjugation. Subjugation creates human beings to retreat into the upstairs part of the unused brain, which is imagination. When you're not allowed to express yourself, you become more imaginative. That's why jazz is very imaginative, because it couldn't be allowed to exist. And therefore, to exist, it has to develop from upstairs, which is where all repressed people retreat into the faculty of the imagination. So most of the time, I remember when I was first trying to teach, I would tell my students, you look at an enslaved person bringing orange juice to a slave owner. And if the scene ends there, you've done a disservice to black people. Because to me, that orange juice bringer, black man or woman, develops an imaginative way of dealing with the urge of wanting to kill a person that subjugates you. Because no one is nice, however much the American slave narrative tries to say slavery with nice people. That has nothing to do. Once you say I'm slave, it's violent rupture right there. Once that very classification continues to ravage this society divisively. And so the orange juice bringer, she or he, imagining choking the plantation owner, imagines choking the plantation owner. As I did in Bush Mama, a black woman who works for the system oppresses my character, Dorothy. She imagines violently towards her. Now, when we look at she's docile, he's docile, when we look at that narrative, we miss black people's upstairs existence that white folks couldn't fathom. And there is the battle of this whole expression. To me, cinema is a war zone. For many young people now, I see it in the kind of students I'm getting now, it's become entertainment. To my generation, we were like the Latin American filmmakers. Latin American filmmakers said, cinema is a hydrogen bomb. And I believe it to this day. That's the only way you can justify why black people buy the first anything invented to commodify, car or TV or anything. Black folks are in the forefront buying because of the power of that hydrogen bomb. The very fact that we continue to combat racism as if it was never done before is this disorientation itself is the power of the hydrogen bomb. And the other part of it is for any filmmaker who doesn't know that the battle against black people all over the world is to kill their sense of continuity. That's why we are the only people who have the first black anything. The first black she, the first black he, I'm tired of this first black anything. I hope after Obama it's over. But to me, that itself kills the sense of continuity because it makes it look like yesterday. I remember at Howard University Communications Conference, a black woman came and she was saying, I'm made out of steel, I made it on my own, etc. at IBM. And I asked her, sometimes you need to think there were many black people before you who tried to get to IBM. If you don't look from that, you can continue to go in this direction and not going to influence many young people who believe and see what's going on immediately in front of them. And so, for me, filmmakers who do not know themselves, storytellers come out of the bosom of a people. They're individual, but they also belong to a collective. Whether they like it or not, every sound coming out of them is a collective scream of many people in jazz form, whatever form we put it in. And so, individual, yes, but we also are collective, and we have a communal base to depart from. That doesn't mean like we have to be loyal to blackness and allow black exploitation by black people or allowing black people to create environments to disfigure our history. But the filmmaker has to be first. Individuals should come from somewhere. And then the other part of it is that filmmaker, and I will not do it in the way you asked me about the three. I'm going to just improvise around that. That filmmaker also is not just a result of an intercourse by his parents or her parents. There's a genomics that is rupturally coming into your birthing. As you come in, you carry genomics, memory. That's why a lot of literature and music In film, we're not there yet. In cinema, we're not there yet. And we all know why, and the economic aspect of it, and et cetera, and the seductive aspect of it. But in literature and music, especially in jazz, memory plays a major role in black expression. So what is memory? Memory is something that genomically is something you carry. And I remember when I brought out Sankofa, a sister came to my office at Howard and she said, my brother, I have walked those, my feet has walked those places in your shots. And I knew what she was talking about. It was not alien to me because that's how I developed the script, by going foot walking the locations. And so the filmmaker should also know she or he has this genomics. That's why sometimes black people look at the world invertedly. It looks invertedly toward the normal society or the standard society. When jazz came out, they used to call it coon music. Now when it came out, actually it was always there. I only heard a white jazz woman said, when I became a jazz musician. I never heard no black jazz musician saying, when I became a jazz musician. They're born into some cultural manifestation. And so that memory, that genomics is key to respond to. And always say, instead of censoring how we see the world to accommodate to the formalism, like in script writing, for example, we are brainwashed daily, this 3-act play that never was even part of the invention of cinema. When cinema came, they didn't know three play. Theater, yeah, but not in cinema. Cinema was coming into its own language. And so here, yet at the same time, we're made to study formula that a merchant producer in Hollywood found it convenient for him or her to accommodate their understanding of script. That itself kills many black kids. The minute you go for formula, the formula rejects all important ancillary images coming left and right into your mind as a result of memory, collective memory, individual personal memory, but at the same time, something you developed in living. However old you are, that itself is part and parcel of the filmmaker package. And so, as far as I'm concerned, cinema is a war because it, more than any medium, cinema has been the place where the imaginative aspect of black people had more problem to overcome. I hope that gets to the very idea of how do I see filmmakers. Filmmakers are so many things. This individual filmmaker is so many things that he or she should always be very careful. And the other part of it is, I do not believe in any art form. Ego and art don't go together. In my view, this is a European making. Eccentricism in art is a European idea. In Africa, all over Africa, and I'm not going to generalize because the different pockets of Africa are small, but in general, from South Africa to West Africa, East Africa, where I have been, I have never seen the artist separated, eccentric, doing anything or she wants to be. It's always within the reference of the communal and the collective area. That doesn't mean the freedom of imagination is arrested. Never. Look at all the music all over Africa. It's imaginative. To this day, no filmmaker has ever achieved the power of the masks of Africa. No filmmaker up to now has yet achieved to really bring the design of the creative aspect of basket weaving itself. Even here in Black America, so many art forms, crafts survived in the South Carolina area. You don't see them making it into the film. We don't weave our films anymore. We do formula movies. Yet in black literature, we see this weaved in and out. In black music, especially in jazz, we see this thing Basket weaving, I could prove to you, I could take a piece of somebody's sunrise. Well, no, forget sunrise. That's another spaceship. But we can go to a conservative jazz and see basket weaving in the way it's structured. Now, but this I don't want to confuse young filmmakers. I just want to know that are they willing, whichever way, they can jump into filmmaking, I don't care. They can go to school, I don't care. But in going to school, they have to be ready to fight the dominant society's idea of filmmaking. To me, that is the death of black cinema. If you talk about the LA Rebellion, it is we resisted classes, script writing classes, cinematography classes. I didn't go to none of these classes. You know, I started saying, no, I think I said if Eisenstein is tapping into Japanese mask, I should tap into my African mask. I studied more African masks than anything else. By the time I hit Bush Mama, I have this whole thing's in my head. Now, is it in the movie? It's imperfectly in the movie. In all my films, imperfectly, everything I am about is imperfectly. And I think if you look at, in fact, I was going to show you guys, it didn't come on time, Larry Clark's Passing Through. The first 5-10 minutes, I used to show it to all my students, from Ernie to AJ. I showed it to Greg Tate, he's here. We showed it again and again. Our school at that time was in a barn. UCLA had the film school like in the barn. In there, we projected it till 3 o'clock sometimes in the morning. Again and again and again. Why? Because he's tapping for the first time in cinema. A black man comes in. Many jazz movies have been made, including by black people in the 50s. For the first time, a black man comes in, imperfectly tampers with the full spectrum of jazz in cinematic translation. And I believe, although the ego of our people, you know, I would say, you know, Spike would prefer to say Scorsese quickly or Orson Welles, but I know them. They can't say that because I know them as young people at Howard. And what happens at Howard is they saw Charles Burnett's movie, Larry Clark's film, etc. That triggered all that generation of filmmakers. More Better Blues, I told Ernie, and he agrees, More Better Blues learned from Passing Through. The first 15 minutes of Passing Through is jazz in motion picture. And so what was that about? How do you encourage such an experimental cultural tapping into oneself when you don't own the banks, when you don't? So cinema becomes, in the end, the medium of capitalism.
Imagine a semester of that. Thanks, Tyler. I feel like I should give you some time to catch your breath, but there's tons of things to follow up on. So I was going to ask you, and you already hinted at exactly how you all resisted during the LA Rebellion stuff. So I'm sure there's much more people would love to hear about that. I'm really intrigued by how often you bring back this notion of imperfection. This idea that whatever you're doing as an artist, you're doing it imperfectly, and owning that, almost relishing in it, that there's something almost counterintuitive and ironic about the link between almost a kind of commitment to virtuosity, to seriousness, and a realization of the inevitability of being imperfect in the way you operationalize your vision. Tell me more about why you spend so much time talking about imperfection, and are there different ways to be imperfect, right? Or is there a kind of imperfection you're talking about that's very specific?
Yeah, no, it's nice. I'll tell you, the best thing you do is the giants of jazz, all the way to Coltrane, they're imperfect. That's what makes their contribution enormous in jazz. Now, Wynton Marsalis is not imperfect. He's perfect. But all the jazz giants who continue to invent, Sonra is imperfect. If you think it's perfect, you're missing it. You see, when you imitate cinema, that's perfect. There's some black films we can say they were really well done, by the standard judgment. But do they have that African essence, that African resistance, that rapturous expression that takes the society into another form? So for me, imitation is not innovation. In fact, the best artists, if you look at the imitators who imitated them, did it best. But all the giants of European art are imperfect. If you don't see the imperfection, it's because then you go to the art saying it's perfect. The world says it's perfect, especially the white world, when it says this is it and it's $100 million, you say, oh shit, I have no. But it's imperfect. It's imperfect. So good art is imperfect. But to me, to find ourselves, inevitably, to express the way I speak, my accent in cinema, I'm going to be imperfect. Otherwise, my choice is to imitate other filmmakers that have already existed in the dominant industry. And I'm saying, then what's the use of me making a movie? Why do black people or Native Americans or Chicanos, why do we have to make movies so expensive? If we do, it's because we're trying to introduce something that bothers us inside. Every alienated person has that. Every outsider has that. They go into the festivities of the Eurocentric dominant society and they say there's something missing. What is that missing? Are we going to bring that or not? That's the issue. Every black person I know is even when black films come, we look very weird, arguing pro and against in every movie, not knowing we're going to regret our position a year from now or 2 years from now. That's why you don't find me talk with about Precious. Everybody calls it. I say, I ain't in it. Let me tell you, about Spike Lee, every time Spike Lee finishes movie, Washington Post, New York Times calls me. I say, I ain't got nothing. I haven't seen his movie. Nothing to say. Because we look bad when we get desperately defending and undefending. So art grows when you critically grab the enemy and just say, how else could I grow? The LA Rebellion against, I don't want to call it the LA Rebellion, but let me tell you, the Charles Burnett, the Chicano, Francisco Martinez, Luis Ospina, the Larry Clark, what makes that group is because they are so, after something they felt is missing about their life story. Their story is missing. They want to empower their story. And one of the most interesting things about that group is it is diluted now. It's the critical discussion, my brother. I can't even have critical discussion when young people bring me a film. I just say, okay, very good, keep going. I can't give feedback. I can't give feedback because, I can't give feedback because critical feedback meant putting down. Man, I thought it was, I said, no, I'm not going to say nothing. I'm just going to say, keep at it. Thank you, my brother, for sharing it with me. Thank you, my sister, for sharing it with me. But when I went to school, Charles Burnett is a headache. Charles Burnett, he's a nice guy. White folks think he's a nice guy. Charles Burnett is a pit bull. When he sees a shot, you can't satisfy this guy. He was my TA. I went to Ethiopia, I shot, I came back with Harvest, kicking my butt. Larry Clark argues. We were people who argued like hell. We'd go to Chinatown till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and debate cinema. What is our cinema? What is our film? This is white people's film. Where is our film fell? That's where it came from. And it's also imperfect. It's very imperfect. Now, why did it fail, by the way? Because it couldn't sustain itself institutionally. We got together in a war space. It's like black GIs. They meet at some place in Vietnam or Australia. They have a certain experience, and then they disperse all over the world. When we got dispersed, we lost the momentum of what we could have become. The other part of it is black film movements are always ravaged by individual egos. They're destroyed by individual. We have a problem to create a collective coexistence. And that's the tragedy. And the so-called LA Rebellion, the disastrous part of it is the fact that we have no continuity. We looked at like a museum piece. We failed to connect to the younger generation from after UCLA. We did not perpetuate the kind of, they would do it better than us, but the kind of ideas we had, the collective approach to individual freedom as we pursue filmmaking profession. And that didn't translate to a generation. That's what we felt. In my case, I took that to Howard. Many kids may not tell you, but Howard students, I didn't go highly broad giant anything. I took to Howard University the Los Angeles experience of these people. I took it there. I showed them these movies every night, every day. And what I was doing was I was hoping that young collective filmmakers will emerge. I'm not for individually existing. I think the weakest aspect of black cinema is individual existence. When you're individually isolated, you are destroyed easily. If you speak about our experience in LA, we were collective, communal, we stayed strong for a while. The minute we disperse, we're weak. And when we're weak, we don't exist anymore. So we need to look at collective cinema. Young people need to look at collective existence. This individual existence, it doesn't even work for white Hollywood. White Hollywood, in a very sophisticated, is a collective existence. When they overthrow the upper echelon, they collectively mobile their vertical mobility upwards. If you look at clearly the time Coppola comes in, they overthrew a whole old filmmakers group, communally, collectively, and those white guys can't stand each other, but they know how to present each other. They can't stand each other, but they always say, I present you, you present me, we can live communally, vertically move up. Black folks here, no. Another black person means the end of me. The farthest I am, it used to be in white schools, black individuals, they feel alone is okay. Now, more coming in looks like my opportunity is going to be messed up in any endeavor. This is a psychological trauma that is manifesting from making our film stride arrested.
Is there, and maybe this is far-fetched, so tell me it is there anything that one might imagine could link this lack of communal, collective sensibility among black filmmakers and the inability to actually appreciate and accept critique, right? Is there something about being able to be critical in a context where you're committed to the group and there's a relationship, a connection that isn't atomized? It's not me against you, it's us together, that might facilitate more of a kind of critical engagement about the work that you feel like is missing in some of the younger generation of film students that
I'll tell you, Charles Burnett one time said to me, Haile, because when Spike Lee came into the picture, it was the most divisive time because Warrington Hudlin was there, Robert Gardner was there, other names you can put together. I remember seeing these are young people who would follow us everywhere we showed our imperfect films. These young people were completely traumatized by the seductive journey of Spike into Hollywood. And that vertical mobility he made, most felt this is their journey because most admired him. He's a very, to me, you have to admire his skill to vertically invent himself. And what worked for him, could it work for other people? I don't know. That I'll leave to history. But that period was rapturous. Communal, collective cinema all over disappeared because individuals start going for it, saying, oh, Hollywood, it can. We sounded so bad. Charles says, let's say nothing no more because we went to London and we were saying she's got to have it. We were having a problem with she's got to have it from old school, to discuss debate. We felt she's got to have it was not positive in the way some feminists wanted to take the woman character didn't digest well with us. It was open for debate and discussions. But apparently it's not. It's completely, it became an attack on the Pope. And so, Charles says, I think it's going to be unproductive to really comment on these films. And I agree with him. it became black cinema's debate, discussion to write, and the result of critical discussion is pleasurable. To this day, I send my scripts to my friends, and I get my butt kicked, which is good for me to go to my second draft. Otherwise, what's the use of me redrafting the same script without feedback of communal collective perspective? So it's not because you will change it to appease somebody. It's just it helps you so much. Somebody could say, I don't know if you know, subluxation is a problem when you have a back problem. At a certain point where your disc is off with nerves, etc. The subluxation of a script could be by the hip or by the neck. But somebody could say, I have a problem in the middle, but may not be the right place where the disc is off. That's up to you to make sure, but the feedback could take you to the real problem that you have overlooked. And so critical discussion transforms art. I don't know any art movement in the world that didn't come out of communal collective existence. I don't know. The referential is so good, so the debate is so good, the discussion is so good between filmmakers. I even wrote one time, from that benefit, I wrote a triangular cinema idea saying black cinema could only strive and grow if the audience have to say. Which means the filmmaker has to get feedback from the audience, and then we don't need like the New York Times kind of black film critics, who would like cherry pick this and down that, which had become many black film critics. For me, black film critics or people who do black film criticism have to join to transform the language of black cinema by being communally, collectively, and gutsy to say what they have to say, whether it's right or wrong. The community has to be activated and be part of. The critic has to hear the community. The filmmaker has to hear the community. I took 2 years off after Sankofa. When Sankofa opened all over America, I went all over South Africa, Ghana, to hear feedback before I touched my next idea of film. Why? Because it transforms me. When I feel the feedback from the community, I remember filmmakers attacking feedback from the community for taking them to task. To me, I'm not from that orientation. I like feedback. It doesn't mean I take I just know where, I can tell if a brother is motivated by something else as he drops something. I remember in Ann Arbor, Michigan, a brother sitting in front. I just showed Child of Resistance. He's sitting in front, all white folks, few black people scattered. And he said, at the end of the movie, he says, I am so, he says, I'm just sitting here imagining if I was white, what this film, would be doing to me. And I said to him, I wish you experienced my film as a black person. What are you trying to be? What are you trying to be, first, if you had experienced it as a black person, instead of fighting yourself to be, if I was white, you would have given me you would have made a difference in my being a better filmmaker. But you suffered throughout, and how can I take your feedback? And the thing, what made it worse to him, which I've made sorry, in the back, some white women got up and said, who does he think we are? Flimsy? What does he take us for? We are capable of taking films like this and getting, toe-to-toe with you guys. So he lost on both counts. So to me, this idea of being an attorney, sitting there being an attorney to a white race, made him miss being a black and experiencing my stuff. And I would have had a much more engaging experience to grow as a filmmaker from him had he not confessed he was having schizophrenic existence throughout my film. And so the other part of it to me, I think, is the collective cinema. Cinema is expensive. And the black capitalism, is also, black folks, out of especially in slavery experience, black folks do not take seriously the class issue that was very prominent in the 1930s. Even the people like Richard Wright, they were involved. You read American Hunger. Black literature people were involved trying to do a class analysis because a class interest is so a serious matter. The reason black cinema doesn't thrive is because black capitalism is completely culturally dysfunctional. They do not understand that, Rockefeller and Carnegie, they know culture is how their capitalism transforms. Capitalism knows culturally the cultural benefits to their economic empowerment. Black people don't. Black people's capitalism is decorative. Just look at me, see at me, I got this, I got more. 30 cars? Which one you drive once a month, once a day? This is where our culture is deprived. Black people, rich black people, are the reasons that black cinema is also a disoriented expression. This is serious for me. And often, African Americans have a loyalty. The class thing scares coming out of slavery, which I would leave it alone. For me, I come from Africa, and class is real. For black people, I think coming out of the same experience, because I used to tell Larry, why are black people happy the fact that Sammy Davis is rich? Why are they happy? I hope I'm not going to be grotesque. When O.J. Simpson stuff was happening with my students, I tell them, O.J. Simpson was eating towards white people and farting towards black people. What the hell is your problem being loyal to him? I don't get it. So I leave it alone. I say, okay, Haile, well, you didn't go through the crucible of slavery. That experience has created a certain kind of mindset that it gives room to characters that are, I'll tell you, if we were clear on this matter, the Black Panther Party would not have gone down. Fred Hampton wouldn't have died. But when we trust, the guy who shot him was sleeping next to him. So to me, we got to look into the black class issue. At least liberal black bourgeoisies should finance films that are not necessarily for capitalism, but for the heritage. Like I'm doing a film now on Black Maroons, a documentary. I'm sitting in the editing room. I have over 300 hours, shot all over Florida, all the way to Braggartsville, Texas. I'm going to go to Mexico when I get a little money to shoot there. I don't have no black capitalists to finance. This is a rich history of black people. Black people who did not need a white Lincoln to free them. From a first day, black people run into the swamps, into the caves, into the mountains that I studied during Sankofa. And I went for it in South Carolina. I went to Florida, Fort Mose in Florida, in Oklahoma, Arkansas, shooting this history where black people, why is that important to me? I just want black people, because black people are always indebted also to, even whites use that. If you hear a lot of the political situation, black people are always asking too much. Who says it's too much is the one who feels he has the key to the freedom of black people. So white people's idea, reperpetuating the idea of I freed you, we freed you, undermines the terrorist work black people did to bring about emancipation even by Lincoln. To me, that is critical. Black people have to see, white people have to see that black people have the enzymes of rebellion like anybody else to be free. And you can't make that flimsy.
So I think I'm going to ask one more question and then open it up to folks. And I mean, maybe the question I'll ask you is specifically about your approach to this documentary film. One of the things I think that's striking when one watches any of your films, and I looked at Ashes and Embers again, I looked at Push Mama again before today, even looked at Sankofa again, is this very specific attempt to use the camera in unconventional, idiosyncratic, and maybe imperfect ways. Are there aspects of your approach to the documentary form that we will see in this project on Black Maroons that will continue that approach. That would be an unconventional way of thinking about how one would tell the story, an historically accurate story that's nonfiction about this particular part of it.
Well, let me tell you, even yesterday when I was coming from the editing room and I'm doing a film on the Ethiopian-Italian War in 1935, Ethiopia was invaded by fascist Mussolini, and millions of Ethiopians have died. The genocide was never, no Italian was taken to war crime the way the Germans were taken. I'm doing a film on that while the Maroon is upstairs. I have 2 editing places I'm going up and down. And I want to tell you about that because for me, documentary or not, always is a story. To me, what is a game about documentary, this idea of fact. I don't think black films should be about facts only. When I was asked to do a film on the Wilmington 10 case, I didn't want to do 60 minutes. They were innocent. I didn't want to do 60 minutes. I want to know who gave birth of them. So instead of going to the 10 revolutionaries, I went to the parents. To me, that is like going to the origin of what put these young people into historical motion. Because when you say Hugh Newton in isolation, you don't know where he comes from. He continues to be completely out of continuity. That's fundamental. So for me, it's a story. You go into it as a story. But let me go back to one thing I think that's very important. I think filmmaking for documentary or anything, first, the language of cinema is housed in editing. Some people, for example, to me, I tell my students, I'm never in a thesis committee if the kid is not ready to edit his or her own film. And I'll say to them, you can have it edited later by somebody else. Experience it first, you. You shoot and you don't edit, you don't know cinema, in my view. Why? And don't be discouraged. Those of you who are like, I'm going to be editor. I'm just trying to get to you the relationships of these things. In the editing is housed language. French is in French. Cinema is in editing. Editing is how it all started. The audiovisual organization is where the language is resting. Directing is no good without that knowledge. Script writing is no good without that knowledge. There's interrelationships of editing to script writing. Because you're looking at the image that jumps on you. It could be flat, it could be contrasty, it could be a certain angle, etc. It comes from editing room development. So the language of cinema is editing room. And often, editing room, the reason editors were brought into the picture is because shooting is always going to have a problem in the editing room. But can you imagine shooting without being aware of editing? You give them more problem in terms of editing. I learned this from shooting wrong. When I was at UCLA, I was shooting wrong. And I was in trouble in the editing room. And then I was rewriting it in the editing room. And then I was learning about script writing. I was learning about directing. No cinematographer would I care to work with if he or she doesn't know editing. You know? So this relationship is fundamental in any aspect of it. Knowing that part is very important. Now, later on, you may not want to edit. You might just say, okay, I prefer, so-and-so editing it. But initially, as you develop your film language, you should be subjected to everything you did wrong on location. Because you will be doing everything wrong, which is good. You're jumping into the pool. You're shooting. In fact, at UCLA, one thing I liked about that was, unlike USC, which is a fascist film school, they say, in fact, there's a book called Shoot and Know. Shoot and Know. First, I was looking at this book and I said, stupid guy, what does he mean? Then I regretted calling the guy stupid because I know now what he's saying. From shooting, but jumping into cinema, you learn also from the mistakes you made. You couldn't edit it, versus you passed that experience to her. She went through, created a lot of things to make that smooth. You missed that knowledge yourself, and you come like with a popcorn to see how she did it. I can see Hollywood doing this. I can't afford, if we talk about black cinema, I can't imagine a black filmmaker who does not subject himself or herself to the editing idea. Editing, again, is an American name. That's why Europeans call it montage. Russians who actually, the Kuleshov school, who actually transformed cinema with this American phobia with Russians, that's where it transformed. Film editing transformed in Russia because of the revolution. They didn't have film. They were using film strips from 10,000 places, and they were composing a woman's face out of 7 spliced shots of ear and face and nose and etc. They edited it to be a face of this person who is not actually, who all the parts do not belong to. So I'm saying that is even the crux of the matter. The editing room, you have to subject yourself to that education. No teacher can give you that. No film school can give you that. That is a film school. Edit, go to the editing room. Shoot and edit, go to the editing room. Now, when you have a good cinematographer who knows editing, they say to you, Haile, I think you need coverage. What we shot worries me. We should get coverage. We should get this. Good cinematographer who knows editing. There's a cinematographer I liked, and he doesn't go to editing room. I don't use him after one film. I told him, you don't go to the editing room? You're not good for me. That's not collaboration. Collaboration with somebody who has an idea of how I'm about to put it together, how I'm about to edit together. In fact, some of them should even be there when you're mixing your sound, when you're building your sound editing, etc. Now, to me, editing is very pleasurable. I edit all my films. I think it gives me that knowledge of how to transform it now further beyond its script stage. Now, in terms of the idea of the documentary, it goes with the same thing. I don't see it separate. A lot of filmmakers look at, yes, the dominant society takes, factual films about, harassing an oppressor or amplifying a victim. I don't have that agenda. I want that film to be about some human experience. So when I approach it like I'm doing Sankofa. This film I'm doing now, first Italians shot, they brought the best camera. Hitler and Mussolini are the best intellectuals Europe ever created. They don't tell you that because to justify European racism and put the sin on them, they don't tell you they were highly intellectual. Especially most of the Italian culture was built by Mussolini. Venice Film Festival by Mussolini. Luce by Mussolini. The city, now architecture, you can go in there and see they were the best brains of Europe. Okay? And when they invaded Ethiopia, they have camera lens from here to there. I thought it was a gun the first time I'm viewing the footage. It was a lens. They were shooting, glorifying the Italian army. They were shooting my people as beasts and animals running around with no notion, although we defeated them in 1896, and that's why they came back, and that's why they poison gassed Ethiopians. So now I'm taking the footage Europeans shot to tell my story. So I said, I have to go to folklore. I have to go to the people who faced these Italians, the ones nobody paid attention. They have never spoken before. The way I did the Wilmington 10, I went to the old people who fought, went all over Ethiopia. For 20 years, I've been doing this movie. Okay? Now, 20 years, I don't know if you know Ogawa, the Japanese filmmaker. 30 years, 20 years is nothing. He goes into a rice field. He doesn't just make a film against something. No, he makes a film with the people, lives with them for 20 years. I believe this film, for me, cannot be done without a process. So every subject matter brings the creative process and the technical process. How do you find it? By you being involved, not giving it to somebody else.
Thanks. Thank you. So is a process that you'll walk around, and do you want me to identify folks, or can you do it on your own? Who has a question? Maybe up on the top there, on your left. Do you see the hand? Yes. It's hard for us to see.
You can't see with that light. That light is
Hi, thanks both of you for a really inspiring conversation. I have a question for you, Professor Gerima. Am I saying your name right?
Well, G, hard G.
G.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
But it doesn't matter. I don't mind.
Okay, I'm Nigerian and have a tough name, so I insist on getting your name right and having people get my name right. My question is with regards to finding the means for the success and visibility of Black filmmakers. And I wonder if you think the answer is to continue competing for spots in the white-dominated American film industry, or create venues like this festival for the distribution and viewing and celebration and critique of Black film, or is there a third option? How do we support and elevate Black film?
Well, it goes back, I don't want to be redundant, but I think to me, Black cinema, Native American cinema, Chicano cinema cannot coexist with the Eurocentric cinema. It can't at this point. I hate to be that pessimistic, but I think in the long term, when this society becomes more rational, more, and again, by change, by change. It's not going to change itself, but it will be changed. In fact, according to Marx, the first socialist country, the real socialist country, is going to be the United States. So it will change. At that time, I don't know. Even within that socialist structure, how does one combat white supremacy? Because to me, it has victimized all races. Often it's lost. It's lost that the white community hiding in this kind of paradigm forgets that every attack on white supremacy is a liberation for them too. But it's lost there. At this point, given that, it's good, it's normal to coalesce not only on belief and gender, but on race matters. You have to create pockets of hamlets, of expressions. And you have to jump from those hamlets into any society to show those works. Showing them, I don't care where you show them. But to create and invent them, you have to be away, and you have to be with each other. Even within each other, the struggle is so enormous because, white supremacy is a virus. Black people are the carriers of white supremacy now, in my view. In Africa, Brazil, and here, we carry. It has mutated so well, we carry it now. So we're not clean people, because every film you point, you have to cleanse yourself too. I used to tell my students, you point a camera, think it's a gun, and see what is in the foreground, what is in the middle ground, what's in the background, because you could have the wrong image in the back that negates everything you're working hard on. So, struggling with each other, for example, in gender, to me, women and men have this unique perspective, although the men dominates that perspective and undermines the women. But many women filmmakers can make women and men filmmakers better, and therefore coexisting and fighting is part of for me, the drama of life. What it is good for me, is the struggle we have to wage with each other. Some people may not be for it. They might walk away after the first discussion. They might be fragile. But where I come from, the debate has given me the best opportunity. Everything I'm praised about, I got from the collective strength of debate. To me, that's what I stress. Patches of hamlets of Black film existence. Jazz is the best. We should study jazz a lot. And I don't know how, I can't imagine, like now, I have a film I want to do called Chicken Bone Express. And I'm viewing Larry Clark's film a lot now, because I want to take what he introduced into another level, because I want to do a film where jazz is the voiceover. Not a human voice, but jazz music is the voiceover. And so the debate within the Hamlet should be from care, not because you want to destroy. I don't need nobody to destroy me. I shy away from that. our communities are bent in also destroying the good. You have to recognize that and say, this is not good for me. So you could bail out. But there's no future for black cinema without collective existence. Referentially being born together without losing your unique individual temperament.
Great answer. It's hard for us to see. Are there hands up that we're not seeing? It seems like one of the things, and you can move the,
Right.
oh, you have one. Excellent. There you go.
Thanks very much for that. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the role of women in black cinema. A lot of the terminology you were using about shooting or approaching the camera is a certain gendered perspective towards the camera. You know, many men carry that perspective. It's to do with the gender position. So if you could talk a little bit about how women have contributed to black cinema and what unique edge did they bring for men? What did they teach men? What men couldn't understand from their gender position as filmmakers? What did women teach them? If you could maybe tell us an anecdote or something like that.
You know, when I went to, first time, I didn't think I was going to be a teacher. I thought I was, I knew my days were, in terms of like most of us, once we left UCLA, we don't have no more equipment. And that's why often Larry Clark one time went to shoot in a snow place. And I didn't read that in his script. I say, Larry, where the hell did you come up with this snow stuff here? And he said to me, Garima, I just want to see how to shoot black people in the snow. And before I could leave school. And it's amazing because you have this opportunity, we have technology, we have the camera. That is key to where we were. Now, when I went to Howard, I was learning teaching, but I was also dangerously strategist without sharing. For example, I would make them take turns in the distribution of crew. One day he shots, one day she shots. Often, as you said, it's the assignment of shooting goes to men. And well, let me just yeah, I know what you're saying, but let me back up. In fact, let me tell you. For example, even the black men at UCLA, we used to sweat before shooting or before doing anything because it's only whites we see who did it. For example, negative cutting. When I was shooting, I used to see all these white kids with white glove. I was scared to go into this negative editing room. I remember me and a few of my friends, the first time we went to the black bag to change film, we were sweating. Because it's a mystified technology that only is appropriately seen as the toy of white filmmakers. So we experienced intimidation. And then we go back intimidating on gender basis. But where I learned demystifying the technology, demystifying cinema, is from this basic part of my life at UCLA I was scared that I'm not legitimate because I come out of some orbit. None of the pictures on the wall look like me. Everything silently said, you're an intruder. Silently it speaks to you, you're an intruder. You don't look right to yourself when you look at the pictures of early graduates. Even water fountains are named after Francis Ford Coppola and where so-and-so drank. And you don't have no black person who drank even out of the fountain. So I bring that into my teaching, where I give the distribution of responsibility to produce, to be in charge, to be a production manager, producer, director, etc. In doing that, some of the best cinematography women did in my class, because we made it a collective, communal experience, and nobody had this right, the appropriate gender right to be the cinematographer. And so basically, this is what I'll say to you, that yes, cinema excludes all colored people. Then it becomes a very macho. The very industry idea is very macho. Even if you hear, Hollywood is a history of macho men, forcing themselves to make the world accept them. They are filmmakers. This guy Tarantino, for example. Unless you don't know the history of cinema, it's very hard for me. Many Hollywood filmmakers remake movies and don't even know they are remaking movies. Those of us who went to film school and watched movies after movies will say, this movie and I'm sorry I named Tarantino, but so many filmmakers do not know. White filmmakers are so entitled, so unaware of that. It is a remake of the many films that went down in history. So it's a macho. It's by force you are a filmmaker overnight. Some of the gimmicks that are accepted as innovation now is unbelievable. Unless people don't watch past history movies. This Boyhood film is unbelievable. Unbelievable. How in the hell would that be an innovative cinema? It could be, okay, fine, the way white folks always say, The Way We Were. That kind of movies go good sentimentally. Barbra Streisand kind of The Way We Were, fine. But to call it a cinema invention, innovative, is a disastrous, because it negates even white achievement in cinema. And so it's a macho world. And we black men filmmakers inherit this macho and alienate a lot of potentially, even suppress potentially women filmmakers. But I'm saying, in the end, it's the struggle that matters. It's the struggle. Even marriage is a result of a sustained struggle. Unless it's a Hollywood marriage. Marriage itself it comes out of the expenditure of paying through years of struggle. Okay? And so why not struggle with each other to create collective cinema? And hopefully we learn to improve ourselves. I'm an improved person. If you had met me 40 years ago, you would think I'm a terrorist. But people have worked on me. And it's the feedback and criticism that gives me also this sharp way of critically existing within even my endeavors that I want to go. I don't shy away from battle and war. I don't. And I think that is how black cinema is going to happen. In my view, that's how it's going to happen. Now, I'm not saying black people should not make films in Hollywood. There are tough ones who would make a difference. Let them do it. If I did go to Hollywood, I told all my friends, if I ever went there, I would have a heart attack the first day. Because I do not allow no white person, forget white person, no black person, tell me how to imagine my mother's story. I would never. And so I would have a heart attack. It's a self-preservation, the reason I don't even go in that direction. But if people are interested, if you are discontented, I'm saying this to you, if you are discontented, you'd be looking ridiculous to always be a discontented part of that. You got to be tired of being discontented. The answer is to collectively hold hands on always defined, ever-growing terms of relationship. You can't shy away from that. you know? So to me, you know, I'm just looking at Louis Messiah here. He could have left it when they made him a MacArthur somebody. He's still there in that community, trudging along. I mean, that's like long-distance runners. And this is the kind of collective community if you are discontented. I don't want to say, if you're happy with Hollywood, you know, fine. You know, I'm arguing with my daughter on Lemonade. And she's 18, and we're arguing. And I'm saying to her, and her mother and me have the same view. We cannot believe how you can sell revolution with disrespecting your tits. We don't know how to sell revolution with your tits. We don't. We don't know how to sell revolution with our booty. We don't. And my daughter is arguing with us. It's a continual argument saying, but Haile, but, and we're going at it. And I'm trying to see her view of maybe the revolutionaries are going to come out of their obsession with Beyonce's breast. I don't get it. But it's a struggle. Even within your own family, it's a struggle to communicate.
Well, so there are a lot of sort of, I haven't gotten through all of Lemonade yet, but I know what you're referencing. One of the sort of metaphors you used earlier on I thought was very, and I'm still kind of going back through it, you're talking about sort of weaving and how we weave things in and out. That also seemed like a very different language for talking about what filmmaking can sound like and feel like. And so also might address some of the gender stuff as well, at least in some small way. Although I think you're also right to say there's something about the way in which we approach film that means we always have to be self-reflexive. We always have to think about the stuff we take for granted. I remember you telling us that in film school. And thinking about, you know, why you turn the camera on when you turn it on. Why does the story begin for you there and not in some other moment?
And especially now with this digital camera, the economics of shooting, conscious effort to plan out your image manufacturing is critical, especially now, because I find my students just, it look like they turn the camera on and they've gone for lunch.
Does someone else have the microphone that I can't see? Oh.
Hi, I had a quick question for you. First of all, I saw that you were recently invited into the Academy. Congratulations for that. And my question is, how do you feel about now being invited into the Academy?
Why are you asking me that? Let me just tell you about something. You know, I used to be very active in the 80s, late 70s, 80s, all over Massachusetts, New York, Philadelphia, appearing in a jury for filmmakers. And all the time it was 9 white filmmakers, the ratio, and 1 black filmmaker. And at some points, it became a race war. Because the dichotomy itself victimized the filmmakers who are the judges. Here I am, no black film, 9 white films, 1 black film, and I'm supposed to be a jury, a judge. It's a mockery. It's a mockery. In some cases, I even went so fascist, I divided them based on gender. I got the women vote. I got all kinds of divisive thing to make the black filmmakers win in New York. But I left ashamed of myself because I didn't believe in the films. It was a race war I wanted to win. And I think that's the most dangerous thing. Black people are always challenged in America. Why would I be in a jury of a majority of white films? Tell me, why? Why would I? It would be like 10 Brad Pitts who look alike but cloned to be this movie, and this movie, and I'm a jury, and I'm going to feel I'm living life? No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. As far as I'm concerned, I'll tell you, the day the production of black cinema in Native Americans and Chicanos is financed well, I would be in any jury. But to me, you don't use me like that. Especially every 20, 15 years when white people are in trouble because of black people, poor black people, making revolution with their cell phone, catching fascist policemen. And they need cherry pick. I've been at UCLA. Don't you know Hollywood tried a few times? Do you ever think I would? I've been asked a few times. But I have my own poor man's principle. They're not for everybody, for me. You could never use me in this white American and black American contradiction. Never. I have studied this. I've studied this race thing, and people were sending me email congratulations, etc. And my wife is laughing. The first day she hears it, she laughed to the floor because she knows me. And so I'm saying to you, my sister, when the society is in crisis, it opens certain valves. Once you eat that, you'll be a very unhappy person going towards the wrong direction. And I know many unhappy black people in the industry, by the way. You cannot imagine the people you see in Ebony and People's Magazine, find them in their fragile moment. You would hear some stuff you would never expect these people would say. Because how can you be always humiliated in a racist industry? More than anything, by the way, let me tell you, in all the struggle done, Hollywood is one place. Hollywood, in fact, during the Academy Award problem, BBC called me and I was telling them, it's high time some people need to really take Hollywood to, because racism is archived in the cultural values of white supremacy. Both black people and white people are victims of Hollywood's racism, of its vocabulary. Racist vocabulary continues to make people be divided. It's a divisive industry. I hope that answers you, my sister.
I think we have time for one final question.
Hello, how's it going?
How you doing, number?
All right. So I had a question, and we're talking about like white supremacy and being in tandem with a lot of like Hollywood aesthetics. But I'm curious, like you talking about your students and like their like recording imperfections, and you talking about earlier about imperfection. I'm curious if like maybe pursuing these like really poor like video skills of like recording with like your cell phone or in like the digital realm, maybe that might be charged in challenging or decentering like these white aesthetics or like big budget Hollywood studios, and like furthering into that, particularly in black cinema. Curious what your thoughts are on that.
The last part again?
The process of just like shooting film or with your camera, like on your cell phone, maybe that might be aided in a way of like dislodging the big budget Hollywood studio aesthetics.
I got you. Well, first let me just say about students, by the way. I want you to know, you hear me like this. First, all the students that came in my life are individuals. They're not, in my, I'm not speaking for Howard University, I'm speaking for myself. For me, they're individual human beings I've come across, and they're precious to me because in them thinking I'm the teacher, I've learned a lot from them. And when storytellers try to tell original stories, there's opportunity to learn a lot from there. So for me, in fact, at Howard, the student's asset has always been my energy. And now, it's maybe an exit time for me from there, but in the sense of the students, the caliber of students has changed, and I'm going to come back to that part. But, for example, when a sister writes a script, I don't teach formula first. First, I hear her to find her accent, his accent. I don't impose formula. No one you'd find where I teach them formula. Even its attempt at UCLA on me did not work, so I didn't come to put it on people. So I do not teach formula in script writing and directing. All I know is these individuals bring something, and can I help cultivate, nurture what they are? That's one thing I want you to be very clear. So I'm not producing clones at Howard University. I'm not. I first want to know who they are. I even go into when they allow me, I go into their personal life, their grandmother, their grandfather, where they were born. And some of them will even warn students, he's going to get into the back of your story. And when she writes her script, I say, where's that grandmother you told me that was on the porch of your upbringing? Because often we think what we saw on television and film is what script writing is. We go quickly. When we go to film school, we come into film school with the status quo. I don't know any student who didn't come having not bought the script writing books that unemployed white script writers write. I don't know any student who doesn't buy them. So this is the kind of contract I enter, is knowing them. Even when I don't know names, which I don't do names, faces and soul and spirit is what I know. And that's where I go from in my teaching. The second part of your question, that's the revolution, by the way. I'll tell you what happened in Baltimore or anywhere when black people start to empower themselves with their cell phone, having not gone to film school. They're negating all film schools in the planet. The sister and brother are taking 4-6 years to graduate. The brother on Pennsylvania Avenue on North Street in Baltimore, with his or her cell phone, she's making revolution. Immediate revolution. It's going to go further. Black people have found a weapon now. They're not going to wait for you and me to graduate from film school. No more. And this is the discrepancy. Again, the class thing comes. Most filmmakers are petty bourgeois filmmakers. You know? Even, for example, some of my students came and they said they're going to Ferguson. And I said, hey, that money you could use it making film on gentrification here in D.C. Why are you flying to Ferguson to march? I said, damn, can't you start march here? Why do you have to go to those folks started it already? Why do you want to, are you like an amoeba, like trying to, I say, start your own revolution. Why are you going there, paying so much money for plane to march? I am like that. A sister came and said, I'm going to Cannes. I say, excuse me, sister, how much is your budget for Cannes? $7,000. I said, make a film on your grandmother with that, and then go to Cannes with film. Why we have this thing up in the reversed way, I don't get it. And I'm saying, it is a petty bourgeois culture. You know, when you can fly to go to demonstrate in Tokyo, well, fine. But I'm saying the filmmaker should be different. The storyteller sees the irony and paradox of the journey, and then says, "Oh, I'll take a camera and film it, do something." But to me, right under our nose, everywhere in America, black people are displaced in the speed of light from their homes, their gardens. My wife said it this way, the best way. We were in this meeting and white folks were accusing black people for being racist. And she says, excuse me, you don't come to live with us, you come to displace us. That's a different thing. When banks, real estates, insurance, tax, black city council, tax, all join to displace black people out of Washington, where is the artist? Where is the filmmaker? It so happens I have a Howard student now. She's like pursuing every gentrification topic. She's going around shooting. That's holding me lately from being so enraged about what's going on. And so I'm saying, you're right, the technology is here, but often most of the most powerful technology is in the hands of petty bourgeois, comfortable people. Let's face it. Let's face it. You know, I see in Washington, black people have no choice that my kids have choice, wanting to go to school in California. I know my neighbors on Q Street in Washington that I have based this script, Chicken Bone Express, on. 70% of them died shot by bullet before I even finish a script. 30% of them are, 20% of them are in jail, and the rest are unemployed and walking like zombies the streets of America, ticking bombs. I call them in my Ashes and Embers film. So my brother, it's up to this, empowerment is not you go to school, you come back to help the people. No, there's no time for that. You can jump into filmmaking. The issues are under our nose. I used to pass by Pennsylvania Avenue and North with my wife because there's a bookstore we go to, Everyone's Place. And I said to my wife, look at these black people here. It's Monday, it's Tuesday, it's Wednesday, it's Thursday, it's Friday, it's Sunday, Saturday, standing, standing, standing. These are people who would like to build something. I don't shortchange them and say, oh, they don't want to work and join the world. They, like me, would like to be industrious in a world that has completely uprooted them. And I said to her, rebellion is coming right here. I've seen it in Chicago. I've seen it in LA. It's coming right here in this corner. It happened in about 8 years. Boom, explosion took place. I'm not being God. When you see a lot of black folks unemployed, homeless, when the homeless building opens, all these black young men and women coming out, being thrown out because they have to move out early in the morning. My brother, I can't eat breakfast after that. And I go to my class and I face petty bourgeois kids whose priorities, excuse me, your world is about to explode and you're talking about what is going on here. And so what is the alternative? The people have to make their movies. The people have to indict the police. The people have to confront the system, as usual, from time immemorial. And unfortunately, filmmakers can make themselves irrelevant when they spend their lifetime saying, I'm an artist. In coffee shops with laptops, Macintosh laptops. I have this brother, unfortunately, I was his teacher. He's in front of Sony right now. I don't know what time in California. He's in front of Sony Pictures at a Starbucks laptop. And the laptop is dying. The whole screen is completely smashed. He's still there. Every year I go to LA, my brother is there typing a dead laptop, a filmmaker who wanted to be, because they killed his confidence. The system. His grandmother, his grandfather sent him to be this amazing warrior, and they decapitated all his nerve endings. And he's there. Professor? I said, my brother, the laptop I don't tell him what I told you now. Crashed. The whole screen is gone, but he's typing something. But I know what happened to him without him telling me. It takes it underneath him. That's what America is about. Takes every confident North Carolina grandmother sent her with. They take it from underneath her and make her lose her confidence that she left her home with. That's a crime against humanity, in my view. It's not something simple for this, like a reception discussion over a wine. It's not. Because often this schism between class comes to ravage everything. And unfortunately, society doesn't seem to learn. So for me, I'm saying to you, I'm admiring every black person who's walking with cell phone looking for police brutality. And I hope they're going to expose tax, the tax man coming to collect tax on people who or some bribe or some stuff. They expose systemic problems. That's power to them.
Thanks, Harley.
Thank you.
I think on that note, we'll end. I think it's actually a very powerful place to stop, because one of the things we often forget, and you're very good, I think, with your passionate way of articulating how high the stakes are, that this is serious business. And to get us to recognize and remember what's at stake here, even at a festival like Black Star, and to connect one's interest in, one's love for telling stories and images and sound to these larger ontological, existential, and political questions and concerns. You're always good at that.
But let me say something. I'm sorry, Dylan, but let me say something. Brad is in the area. He's moved, away from all the world, and he's somewhere living in our area. And Brad, for those of you know, he's a cinematographer. He came out of Howard also. And I just said to him one day, Brad, don't take me as a film lover. I don't love cinema. I hate cinema. Don't take me like a cinema lover. I hate cinema. It's a weapon used against my people. It's the most powerful weapon that disfigured African people from Africa to Brazil. I can't love it, but I want to use it against itself. And he was like, but I was telling him, never have you heard me romanticizing cinema. Cinema for me is a weapon. Any filmmaker wants to go to film making in this white supremacist industry is declaring war. The funny part is black people declare war by wanting to be a filmmaker and then play flimsy in that war. And thank you very much.
Thanks you all for coming out, and hopefully have a fantastic weekend.